All right, welcome to another episode of Political Gurus. Today we're about to talk about the boomerang. And what I mean about the boomerang is that Americans, for the whole history of America, the 400 years, have watched their government kill black people, bomb other countries, kill millions of people in Vietnam, kill people in Iraq, invade other countries illegally, and they're fine with it. But now that it's come back domestically on the streets of Minnesota, the streets of DC, the streets of Baltimore, all over the main liberal cities of the country where Trump has thousands of officers from ICE or either from National Guard manning the streets, all of a sudden it's horrible and it's a violation of the rights of Americans. What we're going to talk about today is how what we do abroad and the way we disrespect the lives of black people, the lives of people who live in South America, the lives of people who live in Palestine, such as Hamas, calling them terrorists, is what we're doing now, but it's what you call the logical consequence of a government that you sit down and watch abuse human rights. They'll do it to you also, and there's a link. And so here's the link. They just went illegally and took Maduro out of his house, killed his guards, bombed them. I've seen pictures of them. They bombed his guards, cut them in half. Americans pumping their fists saying, yeah, we got a dictator. And they said they did it because he's a narco-terrorist, that he's a terrorist bringing in drugs into America. We won't go into the fact that Venezuela is not where the drugs are really coming from. They're coming from Mexico and Colombia. But let's put that aside. Now, this lady that was killed yesterday, what's her name, Kunle?
Renee.
Renee Good or something like that. Renee. So Renee was killed, and I saw the video. She was causing a little bit of trouble at a traffic stop.
She was
trying to stop her.
She was protesting.
Yeah, driving away, and they filled her with hot lead from automatic weapons, and they called her a domestic terrorist. Look at the language.
Basically being a Karen, but she wasn't trying to.
Yeah, she was being a Karen. They called her a domestic terrorist. They called Maduro narco-terrorist. And this is the justification they use for killing people and everything. And to boil it down, all of this is a symptom of a country in which the rich make money through violence. They make money through violence, taking other people's resources, and also not just about resources, just to sell their weapons abroad. Then they give their weapons to ICE agents who are not soldiers and to American policemen, and they use it on the population. And all of this is caused because we have an economy in the U.S. which is based purely on violence. They don't want to produce anything. They want China to produce everything. And they have to find more and more excuses to use the violence. So they say there's crime in American streets, so we have to send people with guns. We're not talking about socialism today, but the only solution for crime in America is going to be when the U.S. government commits to spending money on education and for infrastructure and for healthcare and mental health care. That's it. So what's going on? Like Kunle showed me something. He said black people are not surprised to see guys with machine guns who get bonuses, ICE agents get bonuses, thousands of dollars, shoot somebody and call them a terrorist and get away with it and actually get paid good money, because that's what you've been doing to us. That's what you've been doing all over the world. But now when they do it to a white girl, it's a problem. White people, you've been watching what America has been doing. Also, black people, Americans, you've been watching what the government has been doing abroad. How can you think you have a constitution that your government respects if it doesn't respect human life everywhere else? And you think, well, at least they respect our life. They don't respect your life. The only thing they respect is money. And the way they get money is through violence. What are your thoughts, Kunle?
Yes, she will be written off posthumously as the radical left. And already that narrative is already being spun. I haven't even bothered going into the details of looking at it. But yes, it is. You know, when I saw the story breaking, I was like, why is this story breaking like this? I'm sure it's been going on all the time. I discovered that there's been lots of other incidences like this that have happened.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, people getting shot.
White. This is the first time that we've had a white victim in such a, white blonde woman. But at the end of the day, they're just going to spin something out of it. And we've already seen J.D. Vance talk about her as a as a terrorist herself that was trying to kill these brave officers. Trump said the same thing before the second video came out. That showed the angle that obviously proved that her tire was turned away from.
Then he called her a troublemaker. He amended his statement.
And the bullets went from inside to outside. So how could you be getting shot if the bullets are not going in through the windscreen but out from the windscreen? That means that the car has already passed you before you've pulled the trigger. So you're not in any danger. So that is murder. Now, whether America wants to acknowledge it or not with their politics or whatever they want to do, that is murder. Okay?
Yeah.
They
But,
do what
but
they will with it. And the
yeah,
world
but here's my
will
point being is that it's murder, but so Americans are finally beginning to see that if you have a country which murders people abroad to a government to keep power and to make money, it's the same
precisely.
mechanism. It's the same mechanism because a pit bull will always be a pit bull. If it's not going to
They will
kill
come
outside,
back
it's going to
onto
kill
you.
in. Yeah, it's going to come back. And that's why Americans have to stand up and say, we no longer want our country to be a violent empire. Because if you're a violent empire, the last days of a violent empire is always fascism. Sorry, continue, Kunle. Yeah.
Yes, as I was going to say, it is always might is right.
Yeah.
And that is the rule that has been dominant. The Donroe theory, the Donroe doctrine, which is basically Monroe gunboat
Yeah.
politics, which
Diplomacy.
is that of violence and force. Now,
Yeah.
that cannot work for America because although they do have military, they have nothing to sustain it. They don't have anything to offer except for fear. They do not have any wealth or generation of wealth or prosperity for any country to benefit from. All they
Yeah.
benefit from is not being annihilated by their brutality and their aggression. And how does the world fight this when a nation with the largest military in the world has gone rogue and has decided that it wants to use force and violence and might is right to basically take over the world?
Cool. Can I tell you what they're doing? So right now, the U.S. can't sustain physical violence in other countries because it costs too much, but they still need to make profit. So what they're now doing is taking their weapons and turning it on the U.S. population because this ICE thing, Trump and his goons are making a profit off of putting those guys on the streets. They get contracts. So now they're getting contracts to police the streets of America and to kill Americans or to police Americans because it's still money for them because they can't do it against Venezuela. If they try to do it against Venezuela, those guys will get killed. That's why they came in and paid off somebody to take Maduro out. They can't do land invasions on other countries. So now the war machine needs to make profit. So it's doing a land invasion on its own country. You see what I'm saying?
America's gone broke. It's destroyed its own
Yeah, but it's going
entire
broken itself.
concept of
Yeah,
human
and it's
rights
going to continue
and
falling.
all of that.
And
It's
Americans, the
become
other
the
day,
very
somebody
enemy it sought to be the protector of.
Yeah. The other day, somebody told me, I said, China's going to call in all the loans on America. And someone said, China ain't got shit. So this is the American mentality, which, because America's so narcissistic and so fragile, they can't admit that China's doing well. China's building up the whole world. Their economy is strong. They're with BRICS, South Africa, all these countries are doing well. But American people don't want to admit that they're a failure. So they pretend. So it's sort of like if let's say our show is crap and someone says, you need to do better with your delivery. I won't accept it because it's too much of a wound to my pride. So Americans have too much pride to admit that they have a problem, so pride is actually what's going to kill them. Whereas if you tell me, hey, Moose, your show is bad, I was like, fuck, that makes me feel bad, but let me improve my quality. So being able to critique yourself and admit you're wrong is the only way you can grow. If Americans keep on being in denial, thinking they're the greatest country in the world, thinking that all these wars and stuff are evil, this is going to get worse. What are your thoughts, Alex? Yeah.
You know, if this cycle, continues unchecked, it could get very bad, but not
Oh,
in sudden explosions, more like a slow grinding erosion of rights. The imperial boomerang isn't just a theory, it's a warning. Every time
yeah.
the government practices force abroad and the public accept.
Oh, she cut. I wanted to continue because she was putting, what's his name, Saeed to shame. Is she back? Yeah. What she was saying. So the U.S. is slowly degrading. Rome doesn't fall in overnight. Like if you look at Italy now, Italy is still a first world country, but it has no power. But at one point, the Roman Empire was at its height, and they were printing a lot of money, going on campaigns, killing Vercingetorix and people, trying to expand their
What did they
economy.
say about the gods? That before they destroyed themselves, they will first go mad.
Yeah, and that's what's happening to America.
That when a government normalizes force, deceptions, and disregard for rights abroad, it eventually brings those same methods home.
Yep.
And
What you're saying. those same ethos that they use for attacking people, like, oh, we're after terrorists and everything. So what fascism will do is make certain Americans believe that people within their country are just as bad as the people outside, and they call them leftists, and they're even helping the people outside. So we have to turn on them. So now they're turning on so-called liberals and people who are Democrats. But eventually they'll turn it on MAGA too. Oh, MAGA's not good because they're telling Trump he can't be with APAC. You see what I'm saying? So it starts off with attacking outsiders. Then you come inside your country and say these people who are inside of our country are outsiders because they have the values of the outsiders. And until the only people left are the bankers. What are your thoughts, Alex? Let's see if your connection's better. Yeah.
Yeah, that instability, well, is then used as proof that more force is needed, right? So it becomes
Yeah.
this, federal agencies expand, rhetoric hardens, and dissent gets reframed as threat. And if unchecked, you end up with a society where rights technically exist, but exercising them creates risk, right? Where
Yeah.
enforcement operates with war logic and citizens are expected to comply first and question later, you know?
Yeah.
So how bad it gets as it is in society, it always depends on whether people interrupt that cycle.
Yes.
History shows these trajectories can be slowed or even reversed, but only when the public, decides to stop
Yeah.
accepting all of this nonsense. And
Yeah.
I feel like
And
American people have potential, hey, to do that.
yeah. I hope so. And if you might not be old enough to remember this, Kunle, remember when Al Gore basically won the elections and the Republicans seized it with with the court, and
Yeah, that was the first time
that's
that
when it
America
started.
had that decision of
That was a coup.
free vote.
America had a coup, and let's go back to what you say, Alex. And nobody did anything. So Americans are giving up their rights. And for example, like you said, if you're in America, police can't just shoot up anybody for any reason. So technically, you have rights. But when they shoot you, he'll say, "I felt afraid. He was frowning at me. That's an act of aggression. He's a frowning terrorist." They'll use some technical rule. What are your thoughts, Kunle? Good points, Alex. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite shocking what we're seeing within not just America but Western politics, Western Europe in particular, Western Europe
Yeah.
and North America. There does seem to be a battle within itself, to sort out what's going on. And this is all linked indirectly to the Zionist project, which I do not want to digress into at this point.
Yeah, that'll be the
Um,
topic for our
but,
next show.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be. but but this boomerang effect is so fundamentally linked with fascism, even the economics of it. You
Yeah.
look at guns and butter economics. At some point, your economy has gone so much towards guns and so far away from butter that the money you spend $1.6 trillion on military. That military has to generate income for you. Otherwise, you've
Yeah.
just thrown that money down the drain. And the only way you can use your guns to make money is conquest, aggression, violence, threats of violence, acts of violence. Might is right. That is how you get your bang for
And
the
can I
buck.
add something? And so
Otherwise, you're
now
throwing away
the
your
new territory for conquest is the American streets. You get my point? That's just the new
and you
territory.
don't need a reason.
Yeah.
You don't need a
Yeah.
reason.
No,
Like they
well,
said, we have
for lack
Maduro
of a
because
pun.
Maduro broke our laws.
Yeah.
They don't care who else's laws. Might is
And
right.
what's the
It's
name?
not.
What's the name of the lady who was killed again?
Renee,
Yeah, Maduro broke
Renee
our laws.
Good.
Yeah, Renee Good broke
Yeah,
our
she's a
laws too.
terrorist. She's
She's
a
a terrorist.
terrorist.
So it's the same thing.
Radical
So
left.
yeah,
She's
so
a radical left
it's no
terrorist.
longer nationalistic. It's pure fascism in which if you because actually imperialism is outward fascism.
Yeah.
Fascism is inward imperialism. That's a good one.
They're
Yeah,
digging to find
actually the
some
same
black
thing.
or Hispanic person that she was
Yeah.
trying to defend or raise or was related to.
I
That's
heard
what
she
they're
had,
digging.
and she was gay. So the point I'm making is that they'll use that
And
to try
stuff
to say
like
she's
that.
bad.
Yeah, so a
No,
gay
they'll say she's
lover or
bad. She's a
something,
lesbian. She's a
something.
terrible person. So now they'll attack her because of
Yes,
her
something
sexuality.
to demonize
Yeah,
her. That's
yeah,
what they're working on. And it works every time, so I
yeah.
don't think.
So they're demonizing you based on whether it's your gender, your identity, your
Doesn't
nationality.
matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Your
matter.
religion.
You are not worthy of life
So, but here's the thing:
because of your lifestyle.
they'll eventually come for white Christian um, what's the word for
They'll
that? I don't
come
even know
for
what it is.
people with ginger hair
Heterosexual.
eventually.
Yeah.
They'll come
Anything
for
different.
everyone.
Yeah.
They'll come for everyone.
And that's the message to
Eventually.
America. So, and I think what Alex said, the American citizenry has to, first of all, limit what its government does to it, or it will
Would
continue
have
doing
finished
it,
black
and
people
limit what it,
before they came for
yeah,
homosexuals.
and limit what. Oh, yeah,
They have finished all of us by then.
blacks are the lowest on the rung in our American society. So, but the message of this show is that Americans have to stand up for their government treating all human beings, whether you're black, white, Venezuelan, Nigerian, with respect. Because if you don't, it's going to
This
come
is why
back
we
on a
have
boomerang.
laws.
We have laws.
Laws make
All right,
us
what are your
better
last?
than animals.
Yeah, last thoughts, Alex, and then Kunle will take us out. Yeah.
Um, my last thought is that Americans need to stop denying what's happening because denial is how systems of abuse survive, you
Yeah.
know? And they keep telling themselves it won't happen to us. That's usually right before it does.
Yep.
So when weapons meant for war are pointed inward, when citizens are reframed as threats, and when accountability disappears, people don't lose their lives all at once. They lose protection first. So silence and normalization are dangerous because they teach power that they can keep going. So
That's it. And
guys,
they'll
speak
continue.
up.
Trump has abused so many laws. It's a joke, but here's what I think is going to happen in America. If you can't pay off your credit card bills, they'll put you in jail to pay it off. I think that's where we're going to end up eventually. If you can't pay back your loans,
Definitely.
no, that's what's going to happen. There's going to be debtor jail. They used to have that in England. Remember Kunle debtor's jail? I think that's where they're going to take it. And then they can get free labor and they say, okay, since you can't pay us back, you can help us build weapons. You can help us put together our guns in our factories. I'm serious about that. All right, very good show,
They
guys. Take
even
us out,
make
Kunle.
like fake AI videos of you and you go
Yeah,
to
that's
jail because of
because
that.
all Americans are in debt. Actually, that's how America survives, off of debt. All right, take us out, Kunle. Yeah.
Yeah, so before the gods destroyed themselves, they went mad.
Yeah.
And we've looked at the empire that is America that is beginning to destroy itself with vanity and hate. And as it crosses the Rubicon into the depths of darkness, as we watch
That one
it,
is too much English for me.
we acknowledge, we apprehensively here say from myself, Magical Mustafa and the wonderful Alexa, we say good night, farewell, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Kunle, you know how we say it in America without using grammar? Fuck around and find out. All right. Okay, good show, guys. We'll do this again maybe next Friday or next Wednesday or something like that. Thanks.
Right.
Okay.
Nice
Okay.
one, man.